So from above here, we don't want to see any of this stuff. We want to see kind of the surface of the water. So most of the time, you can use a text gadget for this. So I think, yeah, let's see. So doesn't matter what text you put in here, but you have to have some text in here, otherwise it won't actually show that text, the text box at all. And then we can just turn that text opacity to none. And we don't want it to auto fit. We want to be able to make it as big as we want. And turn off the border and shadow. Then we make it blue like that, and make it see-through. And we don't need it to be rounded, so let's do that. So I choose to put text in there so that when I'm looking here, I know what it's meant to be, what it's making. You can even give it a color, and that will affect the color of that. So I might want to make it blue, so then it reminds me that this is the surface of the water when I look at it, but this color won't affect anything because it's got no text opacity, and you won't see the text anyway. It's just to like help me remember what it represents. Now let's drag this over here, rotate it with, oh, you have to turn on allow rotation so you can rotate it. There we go. Now we need to see the bottom of this fog really. So yeah, if I just have that open there, then have that open there, then I will move this to the right place. So we want this to be at the bottom of that zone. Oh, don't really want to be able to change that. So down one. I think that's good enough. And we can grab it and press triangle. No, that doesn't work. I think the reason it's wonky is because the microchip is wonky or something. Yeah, is that flatter? I think it's flatter. Okay, so now one thing to remember is it goes from the center. Actually, maybe we can change that. Yeah, there we go. So if you make it left and top aligned, and now it goes from the top left, so when you drag it out, it's just affecting that edge and that edge, and then so we can, if we align that to that, then we can put this kind of over that corner. We're not going to worry about getting everything aligned in this sort of demo because it's just demo, but you can spend as long as you want getting it just right, and it's still wonky. Let's try rotating it again. Yeah, that's flat now. Yeah, like that. Cool. So that should about cover it. So now we don't want to. So this is so that we're kind of obscuring what's under there, and we're also tinting stuff under there a little bit blue. This is probably too much for actual water. Water doesn't tend to be like bright blue. Yeah, cool. So now when we're looking from above, it looks like water, and then when you get in here, then we can see the shadows. But now we don't want this necessarily. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I'll show you how to do that. So we actually want a not gate so that if we're not underwater, then we will show the surface. So now as we move down, it just disappears and gets replaced with this fog that shows the shadow. So as we're above it, we just see a tinted, and as we move down into it, we get this cool shadowy stuff, but we can still see that. However, that will be fixed in a moment by adding some kind of waves and stuff. It won't be that impressive, but it's kind of more like a calm water, you can think of it as. So we'll actually need a surface, so we'll use this surface, and we use snap to surface and make it fairly small. I think we'll can always adjust the fairly small, and we want rule flex. Actually, we'll make it larger like that, and we'll fix it in a minute. Right. In fact, that's gonna be annoying to work with, so I'll turn that off, and then we'll make a painting. Now we will draw these lines across. Actually make it a bit smaller, and you want them going the same way, and if you wish you can copy them like that. One more. Now we'll scope out, and then we will make the grid smaller, and then I'll move this down a bit. Okay, so we're not grabbing it accidentally, and then we can copy that over to here and put a load of copies between it, and then merge all the paintings. So now we have one huge painting. That's interesting, it's kind of slightly different now. Right, so that will be our surface. Now we will make it physical. So now, it's from the other side. So now as we move one edge, it kind of waves like that, which is pretty cool. Now we want to see the bottom edge of that fog again. So I'll move this up like that. And it's too short now, but it's too late. I'll just leave it for now. And we don't actually, so what we could do is just align the arrow of the wind strength thing to point up like that. And we play time, and it's kind of got a bit of wind to it. However, it's kind of a bit uncontrolled over that end. So what I'll try is attach the end, which is the end of each stroke, to some object. So I'll attach it to that. So now when the wind blows, that end stays still relative to that, and that end stays still entirely. And you get that, but it doesn't look, to me that doesn't look very good. So I'll take that off, and I'll not use wind at all. I'll do it a different way. So So for this I want some keyframes, so I'll just move this end up one notch. That's probably too far actually. 2 smaller notches. Move that one up, and I'll just get this working first. So if you weren't aware, you can power so if you look at a switch, this is the value it's sending when it's on, and that's the value it's sending when it's off. So when it's doing that, it's sending a 0 number. When it's that, it's sending a 1 number. And so then if you look at what's going on with this painting, then when it's on, it's up, and when it's off, it's down. However, if you send it a number between those values, then it goes to that amount of that state. So instead of being all the way down or all the way up, it's somewhere in between. So if you kind of animate this value, then it will animate the keyframe. So a signal generator, if I plug that into here actually, see what values that gives. So it's kind of making this curve going from 0 to 1 and back again over time. So then if we plug that into there, then it's making this wave up and down in a nice kind of smooth way. Yeah, you can scale tweak menus, just grab them and press up or down, and you can do that with Windows and gadgets and everything. Yeah. Yeah, it's useful for sure. Cool. So now we want to do a similar thing on the other side, but we can't move this end directly. We have to attach it to some object. So I'm going to save on Thermo. I'm just going to copy that so it doesn't cost a whole new sculpt, and I'll just put it next to it. It doesn't really matter how exact the placement of this is, because we're just going to moving it up and down. So now if we tweak the painting and we turn on attach at both ends and then attach end to object. So now when I move this, it kind of drags the ends of all of the strokes within this painting to wherever this object is. So it stays in the same position relative to the object, and you can even rotate it, and it kind of goes a bit weird. But you can use that for a lot of different effects. So we're going to do the same thing we did for the other side. I'm going to grab a keyframe, and we'll have the grid on again. So we're moving it up the same amount, I believe. So yeah, that's right. So now we grab another one of these and power that one. So I'll put this like to the right. I don't know if that makes sense, but we'll give them names. How about that? That's the end of the painting. That's the start of the painting. So we have the start and end. But now they move. Let's turn the grid off again. Now they move like exactly in time. You can see both ends are moving up at the same time. So and they just go up and down like in a regular pattern. So what I'll do is I'll give it some random range. So when it gets to the minimum number, the bottom of the curve, then it decides on where it's going to go from there, and it decides using this max value range. So at the moment it's just set to 1 and 1, so it'll just go up to 1. But if we set this to like 0.5, then it's picking a random number between 1 and 0.5. And we can do the same for the bottom. When it's at the top, it looks for a value to go to at the bottom. So we can give it a range there as well. And now it's giving us a purely random thing. So if we put that to 0 to 1, and that for 0 to 1, then it's going to a random point every time. And you can even, if you make sweep seconds 0, then every frame you get a random number between 0 and 1, or whatever these ranges are set to. So now each side, because it's a random range, each side is going at a slightly different like speed and where it's going up to. So I think probably for this you want it to always go up and then down, as opposed to up and then like slightly lower and then slightly higher or something. So I'll make it so these ranges are like that, and then like that. So it'll go to the bottom half and then to the top half, but it's not sure where it'll go. Also, I'll give it a slight bit of pause time. So if I show you that, these flat plateaus are pauses where it just stays at that value for some length of time, so 4.3 seconds. You can randomize that as well. So if I just make it quite small, then it will just give it a timing difference as well, and just make it even more kind of random. So now it kind of looks painfully obvious. You probably want this whole thing to be up slightly so it's above that blue. So I'll just grab those and group them. I'll make this see-through and everything as well. Then I'll get the grid on. Move that to there, so it's slightly above. It'll always be slightly above the kind of blue tint. So now it's always above. We can fiddle with how it looks. So let's do that. Don't need the grid. And now let's like make it a more water-like color. And maybe give it some opacity. The thing is about the opacity is you'll start seeing the kind of individual flecks, which isn't ideal, but there's kind of no way around it unless you just leave it opaque. So it depends on what you're doing. But you can also increase the looseness so they kind of match up again. They kind of, each fleck gets a bit bigger. So then it's still transparent, but the seams, the gaps between them are less noticeable. So you can fiddle it with this however you want. I think I'll leave it at that.